Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. until 2 p.m. Central. Back weeknights, 7 o'clock Central with PrisonPlanet.tv and InfoWars Nightly News. Dr. Nick Begich is our guest. We have loaded phone lines on a host of issues. I want to get his take on the state of the world. DARPA coming out with this BRAIN project, which is just a public rollout of what was already there. I want to get his true expert take on that and so much more. Before we go back to Dr. Nick Begich of EarthPulse.com, I should add we sell quite a few of his best-selling books on weather modification, on emerging technologies, on empowerment of the human mind, the positive side of the march towards the singularity, the negative side. We carry his films and books at InfoWarsStore.com. So you can find Angels Don't Play This Harp, the film, and the book. We also have his book on mind control, controlling the human mind. We have just all of them at InfoWarsStore.com, and they're all excellent if you want fact, not fiction. Also at InfoWarsStore.com, you can find the Pro Pure, Pro 1, and G2 filters that cut out the glyphosates, the fluoride, the heavy metals, you name it. Unlike any other gravity-fed stainless steel filter, annihilates the competition. See the side-by-side comparisons at InfoWarsStore.com, and these units are less than leading competitor. That's why we carry exclusively Pro 1 and their G2.0 systems in stainless steel and in pitchers. They've got them all. You can also ask any questions or order over the phone, 888-253-3139. That's 888-253-3139. 3139. Then we have survival water filters like Life Straw. We have the great non-GMO heirloom seeds, the widest selection of anywhere out there. All the major developers of them, we buy from them at the lowest price we're authorized to sell. They'll make you sign contracts and not undercut the market. But you will have the certified lowest prices on seeds out there, period. This is what we believe in, selling high-quality products that empower humanity to promote our free speech, pro-liberty, aggressive platform. We're not like NPR. We're not like all these government-funded institutions. MSNBC with the stimulus money. We're funded by free will, free association. InfoWarsStore.com or 888-253-3139. And don't forget, the nightly news just gets so good. It's 30 minutes of condensed, powerful info. A lot of nights when the news ends, then there might be 10, 20, 30, an hour of live coverage or interviews or events or special reports. 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific, 6 o'clock Montana Mountain Time, Tony Montana time. It is all there with our great reporters, myself, and so much more. Over 12 years up and running. PrisonPlanet.tv. When you're a member, 11 memberships for the price of one. Check that out. It's great to wake up friends and family. PrisonPlanet.tv. And starting next week, we're going to be going live out of the studio, either Monday or Tuesday. So get ready for that in the new studio and so much more. Thank you all for your support, all of you out there. All right, Dr. Begich, continuing with the reports I've seen of changing up what's happening, the federal government saying they're going to be over tribal lands and that they'll, quote, help the natives. Well, I've heard that before, but they've already been getting screwed so bad by the state and the feds. From your true expert position that I know really is about helping the native groups, but also Alaskans, period, get the wealth out of the land for the people that actually develop it with their hands. What's really happening in Alaska and in a larger situation with the native nations across North America?
Well, you know, here in Alaska, again, it was a unique experiment, and I worked for two of the more radical tribes in Alaska that really were the leaders. Tyonek Native Corporation, the leader in the Native Land Claims Settlement Act, along with the Alaska Federation of Natives, and then Chickaloon Village, which is one of the oldest established tribal governments here in terms of taking their authority and actually acting on it. And the problem has been the state of Alaska has failed to recognize tribes. These are sovereign domestic nations under the federal codes. The history on this goes back to the revolutionary days, really. And when you look at what's happened here, the state fails to recognize, which creates huge disconnects between Native Americans and the state of Alaska. The feds have asserted jurisdiction over fish and game on federal lands. Natives really don't have control over the fish and game on their lands or the ability to run their tribal courts and be properly recognized by the state. So from a perspective of Native Americans, yeah, the BIA and Department of Interior have screwed natives over in Alaska and throughout the country. In fact, many of my friends refer to BIA not as a Bureau of Indian Affairs, but as boss Indians around. But you know what has happened is sort of the default is if we can at least see the possibility of natives being able to opt at their option into the federal jurisdiction, what happens then is they're able to run their courts properly. The state gets cut out of the process. And the state's been very adversarial to Native Americans by opposing their sovereignty, their right to exist. They are the economic engines for this state. They represent the largest corporate structures now. They control 90% of all private land in Alaska. Only 1% of the land in the entire state is privately owned, with natives owning.
So you're saying overall it's such a bad situation that the feds taking these land corporations your dad set up away basically is better.
For some people believe so within the Native community.
Well, what do you believe? I mean, I know you don't want to speak for them, but you're highly respected by them, you know, for and your dad helping them so much. I mean, what do you really think? Your personal opinion?
I think we need to do some kind of a hybridized version.
I agree. You need checks and balances on the two groups.
That's exactly right, because what's happening now is Interior is unreliable. I mean, there's $1 trillion lawsuits, you know, that were settled for billions because of the BIA's lack of management over native lands, trust lands. More authority needs to be vested with the tribal governments within these configurations, and the state needs to be forced to recognize these tribes whether they like it or not. They're federally recognized. These people have a right to recognition by the state of Alaska, and that needs to change. When you look at what's going on here, natives are the leaders in many of the developments going on in Alaska, where the federal government under the Obama administration has stood in the way of development. Alaska represents nearly 20% of the land mass of the United States, the largest coastal areas in the United States, bigger than the East, West, and Gulf Coast combined. We have mineral wealth that would set the budget straight. I mean, we have...
Well, I know this. Everywhere the natives haven't been given control, it's a hellhole, and they're all just basically the stereotype drinking Jack Daniels in a trailer with no electricity. But where you go where the natives have gotten control, up in Minnesota and Oklahoma and other areas, some of the nicest areas in the state are native controlled. So the answer is give the natives their wealth, stop treating them like crap, and they'll produce wealth and actually, you know, give us something that's different than the state or the feds. That's what I like, is more diversity.
Yeah, absolutely. And these people operate good organizations. They are good people. And yeah, there's a lot to learn in all of this, because we become, you know, international in the fact of where Alaska sits and where our commodities flow. They flow to the Pacific Rim, mostly to foreign buyers. It's incredibly important to recognize not just the sovereignty of individual citizens within the country, but to recognize the sovereignty of First Peoples. They have the potential to develop governments that actually represent people and deliver services.
Well, I would rather the natives have half the Western land than the feds having it. At least they'll do something with it.
Absolutely.
I mean, come on.
Absolutely. And these are responsible people. They care about the land more than anyone else. I mean, this is their heritage. Let these people have the sovereignty they deserve. Let them move forward. Don't just under the bus of the Interior Department. Let's find a hybridized way to accomplish this. I'm hopeful that my brother will continue. I mean, he had strong rural support. He won every rural district against one of the most powerful senators in history, Ted Stevens. And my brother won every rural district in Alaska when he ran against him 6 years ago. Because of the family's position and his position on Native American rights, I'm certain in the next 6 years, he'll accomplish a great deal if he's allowed to serve again.
All right, now continuing, let's shift gears into brain chips, and I want to take calls. And then, wild card, what do you want to cover in the 30 minutes of the next hour? Just tell me now, because I know there's a lot of issues out there. You cover so much. What is front and center?
I'd like to get into a little bit more on the lands issues and the resources here, because Americans don't really fully recognize this state potentially offers the solutions that the country needs to alleviate our deficits, to create a growing, vibrant
Oh, yeah, that's why the globalists don't want us getting into Alaska or getting into the West and use fake environmentalism to block it all off. And then meanwhile, they're doing stuff in Mexico and China 10 times worse. We'll talk about that some in the next hour, a plan to get this country going again. People say, well, why are you pro-oil or pro-gas? Don't you want free energy? If they would let us develop all that instead of suppress it, sure. But we are on this economy, and so we're talking about realism, and we'll talk to somebody who knows about it more than anybody, Dr. Nick Begich. But shifting gears, I'm sure you saw last week Obama come out again and say we want this brain program and announce what's been around for decades, a rolling out of brain chips, and sure, it could be great to the blind to see, brain damage. The problem is they build back doors into everything. What is your take on the public rollout of DARPA and the brain chips?
Well, we've been talking about this, as you know, for 18 years with you on the air and many, many others. The fact is they're masking the true intentions behind these so-called great one